Hello everyone, my name is Ben and I'm here to help you relax and drift off to sleep. Before we begin tonight's story, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from? And what time is it for you right now? It's always so wonderful to see where our cozy community is tuning in from. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin. The Forgotten Garden. The first frost had yet to touch Clover Hollow, but already the mornings carried a crisp hush. Mira Everwood walked the winding lane toward the library, her basket filled with violet leaves, marigold petals, and sprigs of silver thyme. In the crisp air, the scent of earth and clover rose beneath her steps. Inside the Clover Hollow library, she found Beatrix seated by the window, a cup of honeyed tea at her side. "Good morning, Mira," Beatrix greeted warmly. "Good morning," Mira replied, setting her basket down. "I found something I thought you'd like to see." She withdrew a folded letter, its paper edged in age. "I was helping tidy old boxes in the apothecary's attic," she explained. This was tucked inside a ledger of herbal recipes. Beatrix unfolded the letter carefully. Its faded script read, "To whomever finds these words, know that the garden behind Bramblethorn Cottage holds more than leaf and root. It holds memory of those who tended it and those who may yet come. Be kind, and it may remember you." Beatrix's brow lifted. "Bramblethorn," she murmured. "That cottage has been empty these many years. The garden, I'd thought it lost." Mira's eyes shone with quiet excitement. "I'd like to find it," she said softly. "Perhaps there are herbs that still grow, and stories waiting beneath the leaves." Beatrix smiled. "Then we shall go. Let me send word to Arthur. I suspect he'll wish to join us." By mid-morning the three had gathered, cloaks drawn against the autumn breeze. Together they set out toward the edge of Willowmere Woods, where Bramblethorn Cottage waited in dappled shadow. And beyond its leaning gate, unseen for many a season, the forgotten garden breathed beneath its veil of green. The path grew narrow as they neared the edge of Willowmere Woods. Mira Everwood led the way, her basket swinging lightly at her side. Beatrix walked just behind, her shawl drawn close. Arthur Quill, sturdy walking stick in hand, brought up the rear, eyes bright with curiosity. "I remember Bramblethorn Cottage," Arthur said softly. "An herbalist once lived here, Arthur Moran. A quiet woman, but kind. Her teas were said to soothe both sorrow and stubborn hearts." "And the garden?" Mira asked. "A wonder in its day," he replied. "Rare herbs, flowering vines, a small pool where she'd steep certain blends beneath the moon." "It seems the garden wishes to be found again," Beatrix said, her voice gentle. At last they reached a low stone wall, half hidden beneath ivy and bramble. Beyond it stood Bramblethorn Cottage, its thatched roof weathered but intact, shutters askew, ivy trailing like green lace across the stone. "There," Mira whispered. To one side of the cottage, an arch of wrought iron stood beneath a tangle of vine. A single rusted gate hung within, its surface etched faintly with twisting leaves and stars. "The garden gate," Beatrix murmured. Mira stepped closer, her fingers brushing aside strands of ivy. Beneath the green, a single inscription gleamed faintly. "Tend with care, tread with kindness." Arthur smiled softly. "It remembers." Together they pushed the gate gently inward. It swung open with a soft groan, not sealed, but waiting. Beyond lay a garden, overgrown yet alive. Sage and lavender run wild, sweet woodruff weaving through the grass, clusters of violet and marjoram climbing toward dappled light. A path of moss-covered stone wound inward, half hidden beneath fallen leaves. Mira breathed deeply. It feels as if the garden knows we've come. Beatrix nodded. Let us tread lightly and listen well. And so, beneath a canopy of gold and green, the three stepped into the forgotten garden, where leaf and root and memory stirred beneath the autumn sun. Sunlight dappled through the shifting leaves, casting soft patterns across the overgrown garden floor. Mira Everwood moved slowly along the mossy path, her gaze bright with wonder. Clusters of sage and wild thyme tumbled over the stones. Pale bellflowers swayed among tangles of sweet violet. At the garden's heart, a small stone-edged pool glimmered beneath a drift of fallen leaves. "It's beautiful," Mira whispered. Beatrix Lane traced her fingers along the low stone wall where creeping rosemary had taken root. "It breathes with memory," she said softly. Arthur Quill knelt beside a patch of silver-leaf mint, its fragrance rising faintly. "And it welcomes us," he added. Mira's gaze followed an arching vine toward a small wooden bench, half hidden beneath ivy. Upon it lay a bundle wrapped in faded linen. "Here," she called gently. Beatrix and Arthur joined her. With careful fingers, Mira unwrapped the bundle. Inside rested an old leather-bound journal, its cover etched with the image of a moonlit garden. "Arthur Moran's journal," Beatrix murmured. Mira opened the first page. In a clear, steady hand it read, "To tend the garden is to tend the heart. Each leaf remembers, each root holds song. The garden listens and will offer its voice to those who come with care." Arthur smiled. A garden of memory indeed. Mira turned another page. Delicate sketches of herbs and flowers filled the margins, alongside notes: lavender for long-held grief, sage to clear what weighs unseen, mint for clarity beneath tangled thought. At the edge of one page, a line stood alone: "When the garden calls, answer with kindness, and it shall bloom anew." Mira looked up, eyes shining. "It called us," Beatrix nodded, "and we have answered." The wind stirred through the leaves, a sound like soft laughter and whispered song, and as they stood beneath the turning branches, the garden seemed to sigh in welcome, its long-held breath released into the autumn air. The garden waited in gentle stillness. Mira Everwood closed Arthur Moran's journal softly, its words lingering in her mind. "Answer with kindness, and it shall bloom anew." She glanced toward Beatrix Lane and Arthur Quill, who stood quietly among the shifting greens. "Shall we begin?" Mira asked. "With care as it asks," Beatrix replied. Arthur smiled, and with respect, as all good gardens deserve. Together they moved softly along the winding paths. Mira knelt first, fingers brushing aside fallen leaves to reveal sprigs of violet and thyme beneath. She gathered the dry leaves gently, letting the living green breathe once more. Beatrix clipped away ivy tendrils that smothered young lavender stalks, her touch light and sure. Arthur cleared a fallen branch from the old stone bench, its surface now dappled with sunlight. "There is life beneath it all," Mira said softly. "The garden remembers," Beatrix agreed. As they worked, the air seemed to grow lighter, the scents of herb and earth deepening. At the small stone-edged pool, Mira knelt. Its surface shimmered faintly, scattered with amber leaves. With a small wooden ladle, she cleared the leaves one by one, revealing the water's still mirror beneath. The moment her fingers brushed the last leaf away, a soft ripple stirred. From the pool's centre, a single stem of white-flowered mint rose, its petals luminous in the sun. "A gift," Beatrix whispered. "Or a welcome," Arthur added. Mira smiled, her heart warm. "The garden answers," she said softly. Carefully she clipped the mint stem, tucking it between the pages of the journal. "For remembrance," she whispered. The wind stirred gently through the garden, a soft hush of approval, and as they stood amidst the leaves and light, it was clear. The forgotten garden had begun to wake. The garden had grown quieter as the afternoon lights softened to gold and amber. Mira Everwood stood near the small stone pool, the luminous white-flowered mint still fresh between the journal's pages. She felt the garden's subtle presence, not loud, not insistent, but like a steady heartbeat beneath the earth. "It feels awake now," she whispered. Beatrix Lane smiled. "A good garden always listens," she said, "and sometimes it speaks in its own way." Arthur Quill rested upon the cleared stone bench, eyes bright. "Gardens are like stories," he mused. "They remember what came before and welcome what is yet to grow." Mira looked down at Arthur's journal once more. "There is more here than I know," she said softly. "And more yet to find," Beatrix replied. As if in answer, a sudden soft breeze stirred through the leaves, not cold, but cool with the scent of mint and moss. Mira turned. Beyond a cluster of overgrown sage and marjoram, a faint line of moss-covered stones curved beneath a trailing arch of honeysuckle and ivy. "Look," she said. The others followed her gaze. A hidden path, long forgotten, wound gently toward a shaded alcove. "An invitation," Arthur said with a small smile. "The garden wishes to show us more." "Then let us tread kindly," Beatrix said softly. Mira led the way, her fingers brushing leaves aside with care. The path was cool beneath their steps, the air rich with green. Small flowers peeked from beneath the moss, starwort, wild chamomile, and slender violet bells. "Even in shadow life blooms," Mira whispered. They followed the winding stones, hearts quiet and open, and as the path curved beneath an arch of ancient oak, a new space opened before them, hidden from sight for many a season. Here Beatrix breathed. A circle of elder trees stood in a gentle ring, their trunks twined with ivy. At the centre, an old wooden table, weathered by time, waited beneath a scatter of golden leaves. "A place of gathering," Arthur murmured. Mira smiled softly. "A place of stories," she whispered, and as they stepped within the circle, the garden sighed once more. A breath of welcome beneath leaves that whispered of memory and light. Within the circle of elder trees, time seemed to slow. Sunlight filtered through the high branches, casting gentle beams across the mossy floor. The air felt cool and still, yet alive, as though the garden itself was holding its breath. Mira Everwood stepped softly toward the old wooden table at the centre. Its surface was worn smooth by age, the edges traced with faint carvings of leaf and vine. "It feels peaceful here," she whispered. Beatrix Lane nodded, voice low. "Circles are places of memory and of keeping. This space remembers what the heart brings to it." Arthur Quill rested one hand lightly on an elder tree's rough bark. "And it welcomes us," he said softly. A light breeze stirred through the clearing, carrying with it the scent of elderflower and earth. Mira opened Arthur's journal once more, its pages warm beneath her fingers. As she turned them, a new line shimmered into view, words written in the same sure hand. The heart of the garden is a place for listening. Here, beneath elder and leaf, speak what the heart would plant, and listen well. Mira looked up. It asks us to speak, she said softly. Not for the ear alone, Beatrix replied, but for the garden to hear. Arthur smiled gently. Then let us offer it words worth growing. For a moment they stood in quiet thought. Then Mira stepped forward, voice soft as the falling leaves. I wish to plant care, that all who walk this garden may find healing in its green embrace. Beatrix followed. But welcome, that the garden remember it is loved, and that new hands may tend it in seasons to come. Arthur placed his hand upon the table. I wish to plant story, that this place may hold the tales of those who walk its paths, and whisper them gently to the leaves. A deeper hush settled over the circle. Then, from high among the elder branches, a single silvered leaf drifted down, spiraling slowly to rest upon the table's worn surface. Mira smiled softly. The garden answers, and beneath the turning leaves, the forgotten garden listened, as it always had, as it always would. The clearing within the circle of elder trees held a soft, listening hush. Above, the branches swayed gently, their leaves whispering a language older than words. Mira Everwood, Beatrix Lane, and Arthur Quill lingered by the old wooden table, hearts quiet. The single silvered leaf lay where it had fallen, resting upon the worn surface. The garden heard us, Mira whispered, and holds our words now, Arthur replied. Beatrix glanced once more around the circle. Places such as this, she said softly, are rare, where memory lives not in stone but in leaf and root. Miri opened Arthur's journal once more, running her fingers lightly across the delicate script. As she turned a page near the back, her fingers caught upon a faint seam. There is something here, she murmured. Carefully, she lifted the edge of the binding. A small hidden pocket revealed itself, stitched beneath the last page. Within it lay a folded piece of vellum, pale and soft with age. Mira unfolded it gently. Upon it, in Arthur's sure hand, was written, If this garden is found by kind hands, know this. The elder circle guards the seeds of heart and memory. Beneath its stones, gifts of healing and remembrance lie sleeping, to be wakened by care, not haste. Beneath the words was a simple diagram, a ring of elder trees, and within it 3 marked stones near the table's edge. Mira looked up, eyes bright. There are gifts here, she whispered, and perhaps more than we yet know, Beatrix said softly. Arthur smiled, a light in his gaze. A story beneath the roots, waiting to be told. The breeze stirred again, cool and fragrant with elderflower. Shall we seek them? Mira asked. Gently, Beatrix replied. And with care, Arthur added. And as the trio moved softly beneath the turning leaves, the garden seemed to breathe with them, alive with memory and ready to share what it had kept through the quiet years. The soft hush within the circle of elder trees held a feeling of quiet anticipation. Mira Everwood, Beatrix Lane, and Arthur Quill moved carefully along the mossy ground, the vellum diagram open in Mira's hands. 3 stones marked, she whispered, and beneath them gifts of heart and memory. A hidden tending, Beatrix said softly, left by hands that knew the garden well. They approached the first marked stone, a low, flat slab near the table's edge, veined with threads of silver. Mira knelt, brushing away a scatter of fallen leaves. With care, she lifted the stone. Beneath it lay a small woven pouch of faded green cloth. Mira opened it gently. Inside were 3 slender twigs of elder, bound with a single silver thread. "For remembrance," Beatrix murmured, reading the note enclosed. "To hold the memory of loved ones close." Mira placed the bundle reverently upon the table. At the second stone, near the curve of an elder root, they found a small vial of lavender oil, stoppered with wax. The note read, "For ease of sorrow, to soothe the heart when grief weighs heavy." Arthur held the vial carefully. "A kind offering," he said softly, "for all who walk with such burdens." At the third stone, half hidden beneath wild thyme, Mira uncovered a small packet of seeds, their surface glistening faintly. The note read, "Seeds of new beginning. Plant with hope and tend with patience. The garden knows the time." Mira smiled, her heart warm. "It asks us to plant them," she whispered. Beatrix placed a gentle hand upon her shoulder. "And so we shall," she said, "that new life may join what memory keeps." Arthur's gaze swept the circle. "This place holds such care," he said softly. "Arthur tended it with a heart as strong as the elder roots." The wind stirred again, cool and fragrant. Mira gathered the gifts with quiet reverence, placing them upon the table beside the silvered leaf. "The garden remembers," she whispered, "and offers its healing still," Beatrix replied. They stood together beneath the elder branches, hearts lightened by the garden's gifts, and beyond the circle, unseen paths of leaf and root awaited their next gentle steps. Beneath the watchful elder branches, the small packet of seeds lay upon the worn wooden table. Mira Everwood traced the faded words on its note once more. "Plant with hope and tend with patience. The garden knows the time." She looked up at Beatrix Lane and Arthur Quill, her voice soft. "Shall we plant them together?" "A gift such as this," Beatrix replied gently, "deserves hands of care." Arthur smiled, "And hearts of kindness, as this garden well knows." Mira gathered the seeds, tiny, glistening like dew, and chose a small patch of soft earth near the circle's edge, where sunlight pooled through the leaves. "Here," she said, "where light will greet them first." Together the 3 knelt upon the moss. Mira brushed aside the surface leaves, revealing dark, rich soil beneath. One by one she nestled the seeds into the earth, her movements slow and mindful. Beatrix poured a trickle of clear water from a small flask, her voice a soft murmur. "May these roots grow strong, and their blooms bring peace." Arthur placed his hand upon the earth beside the new planted seed. "May their story join the garden's song," he whispered. For a moment they remained still. 3 hearts joined in a quiet wish. Then, as they rose, a soft rustle stirred through the circle. Above, the elder leaves whispered like distant voices. Upon the patch of newly turned soil, a faint shimmer appeared, a gentle silver glow, no brighter than moonlight upon water. Mira watched, breath held. "It welcomes them," Beatrix whispered. "And remembers," Arthur added. The glow lingered for a heartbeat, then faded, leaving the earth warm beneath the cool air. Mira smiled, her heart full. "We will return," she said softly, "to tend them and to listen." The garden seemed to sigh in answer, a breath of peace beneath the turning leaves, and beneath the soil, unseen but certain, new life had begun its slow, patient song. The circle of elder trees stood in a soft hush, leaves shimmering faintly in the late afternoon light. Mira Everwood rested her hands upon the newly planted soil, heart quiet and full. Beside her, Beatrix Lane and Arthur Quill watched the patch of earth where the faint silver glow had lingered. "The garden knows," Mira whispered, "and holds our care as its own," Beatrix replied gently. Arthur smiled, leaning upon his walking stick. "It is a rare thing to be welcomed by such a place." The trio stood together in comfortable silence, the garden breathing softly around them. Mira closed Arthur's journal, securing it within her basket. "We will return," she promised softly, "to tend, to listen, to honour what lives here still, and to plant more stories," Arthur added with a knowing smile. As they turned toward the mossy path, a faint stirring caught their ears. The wind had stilled, yet from high within the elder branches a soft rain of leaves began to fall. One by one, slender silvered leaves drifted down, spiraling slowly through the sunlit air. They landed lightly upon the moss, upon the table, upon the three friends, a final gift from the garden. "A blessing," Mira said softly. Arthur caught a single leaf upon his palm, eyes bright. "A story shared, a story kept," he said. They lingered for a moment more, each tucking a silvered leaf into pocket or basket. Then, with hearts lightened and spirits full, they stepped quietly from the circle. The moss-covered stones guided them back through the hidden path, beneath arches of ivy and honeysuckle, and as they passed once more through the garden's outer gate, Mira glanced back. Within the dappled clearing, the elder trees stood tall, and from their branches a final soft rustle seemed to whisper, "Come again." Mira smiled. "We will." And beneath the turning leaves of Clover Hollow, the forgotten garden settled into a gentle hush, its song renewed, its heart open once more. The late afternoon had softened to early evening as Mira Everwood, Beatrix Lane and Arthur Quill made their way back along the winding lane. The light slanted gold across the stone walls of Clover Hollow. Lanterns began to flicker softly in windows. The scent of wood smoke and lavender drifted through the cool air. Mira walked with her basket in hand, Arthur's journal resting carefully within. In her pocket, the single silvered leaf lay light and warm. "I never imagined such a place," she said softly. "Nor did I," Beatrix replied. "Yet I think the garden knew we would come and needed us too." Arthur smiled beneath the brim of his weathered hat. "All stories have their time. Today the garden's story joined ours." Mira nodded, her thoughts gentle. "It felt as though it breathed with us," she whispered, "that it remembered and welcomed what was new. And now it holds your care within it," Beatrix said warmly. "And your words," Arthur added, "for words planted well, like seeds, grow in unseen ways." They passed beneath an arch of twining ivy, where the lane curved toward the village green. Mira looked up at the evening sky, deepening to soft indigo, a scatter of early stars just beginning to gleam. "I wonder what will grow from those seeds," she said softly. "Hope," Beatrix replied. "Patience. Perhaps something the garden alone will choose to show." Arthur chuckled gently as the best kind of growing. As they reached the crossroads near Wren Lane, they paused. "Thank you," Mira said quietly, "for coming with me, for tending with me." "Always," Beatrix replied with a kind smile, "as long as there are gardens and stories to tend." Arthur said softly. They parted with warm farewells, each carrying the gentle hush of the garden within their hearts. Mira walked the final stretch alone. Beneath her hand, the journal felt warm, not in heat, but in the way of something alive with memory and promise. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "I will return." And beneath the turning stars of Clover Hollow, the garden waited, patient and listening, as all good gardens do. Night had fallen softly over Clover Hollow. Mira Everwood pushed open the door of her small cottage, the faint chime of the silver bell above the latch ringing in welcome. Inside, the air was warm with the scent of dried lavender and honeyed tea. She set her basket upon the worn oak table. Arthur's journal lay atop it, its cover faintly luminous beneath the glow of a single lantern. Mira poured herself a small cup of chamomile and mint. Its steam curling in gentle ribbon, she settled into her favourite chair beside the hearth, the journal resting on her lap. For a long moment she simply sat, listening to the hush of the village beyond her window, the distant call of an owl, the soft rustle of ivy in the breeze, the steady tick of the old clock on the mantel. Then, with slow, reverent fingers, she opened the journal once more. A new line had appeared, faint as if written in starlight. "The garden remembers. The heart that tends it will find its story woven in leaf and root." Mira smiled softly, her eyes warm. "And I will listen," she whispered. She tucked the silvered leaf between the journal's pages, where it shimmered gently against the parchment. The flame in the hearth burned low. Beyond the window the stars wheeled slowly in the velvet sky. Mira rose, drawing her shawl about her shoulders. She placed the journal carefully upon her writing desk, beside a small sprig of white-flowered mint. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we will begin again." She extinguished the lantern, leaving the room bathed in soft shadow. As Mira slipped beneath her quilt, the hush of the forgotten garden seemed to linger, a gentle breath of green and earth and story. And beneath the quiet heart of Clover Hollow, the garden waited, its leaves rustling softly beneath the stars. And so, beneath turning leaves and starlit skies, our time in the forgotten garden draws to a close. Thank you for walking its quiet paths with me tonight, and for tending your own heart along the way. The garden waits patiently for your return, as does the village of Clover Hollow. Until we meet again, may your dreams be gentle, and may tomorrow bring new stories to plant and new wonder to grow.